What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, Sue?
Today we're back with another American reaction. Super excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Get your Geography Now merch like this cool mug at geographynow.com. It's not selling out if it's your brand. Want to also see this really cool Uganda shirt that I'm wearing? Yeah, it was made by Geography. Ruba, remember her from the Sudan episode? She makes these shirts, and if you are interested in getting an Africa logo shirt, go to unityshirtshop.com, support her business. Thank you, Ruba. And check out the Sudan episode. She was good in it with her cousin Mathani. I love diving into East Africa because the whole region is like this geothermally active yet super lush rift valley that the Bantus and the Nilotes migrated to. And as you guys know, I love having people either from the country or people that have heritage from the country. And with that, say hi to our Ugandans, Paihan and Kimmy.
What's poppin', man?
How you guys doing? You guys ready for Uganda?
Let us go.
Let's do it.
So Uganda is a complicated place when it comes to the map because this legally demarcated structure of Uganda is based on colonial lines versus the traditional regions.
We'll explain a little more, but first, let's jump into the map with the motion graphic, shall we?
Let's do it. First of all, Uganda is a landlocked country located in East Africa, straddling the equator, bordered by 5 other countries. Uganda also lays claim to the largest portion of Lake Victoria, cut close at the 1-degree parallel, and slicing through random island boundaries with Kenya, even though half of these islands are disputed, like Mikingo, Ringiti, Ramba, and even Sigulu Island had a few complications, even though it is under Ugandan authority. In fact, they have 2 other disputes, one with South Sudan over the Logoba/Moyo districts, where the border was never formally demarcated during colonial times, so they just kind of went at it. And with the DRC, you have this little guy over here in Lake Albert, Rukwanzi Island, which had a skirmish in 2007, and since then has been occupied full-time by Congolese soldiers. The country is divided into 4 regions, with the capital and largest city of the country being Kampala on the coast of Lake Victoria. Here you can also find Port Bell, the largest port, which is only a small pier where most lake-bound shipping containers are dropped off and transferred to a rail line connecting to it. Due to the layout of the city, Kampala doesn't host any airports within its metropolitan vicinity, and all travelers wishing to visit must fly to Entebbe International, which lies about 25 miles or 40 kilometers south of Kampala. This is the only international airport within the country. However, altogether there are 47 domestic regional airports and airstrips, the second and third busiest being Ora and Gulu airports in the north. Gulu actually being the 3rd largest city of the country, the second being Mbabara in the south. All of Uganda is interconnected via paved and unpaved road networks, and they are part of the Trans-African Highway Line 8 that essentially connects West Africa from Lagos, Nigeria, all the way to Mombasa, Kenya. Nice. Uganda also has some rail lines, however today the only one in operation is the Malaba-Kampala line. Fun side note, Kampala is one of the fastest growing cities on earth, and it produces about half the country's GDP.
Also, it was ranked by global development agencies as East Africa's most comfortable city. Yes, even ahead of Kigali.
So we're gonna like keep doing this now. You're just gonna keep throwing me into the fucking ring.
Hey, I'm just saying, you guys set high standards. You're like the Singapore of Africa.
Yeah, and don't you forget it.
Now, administratively, Uganda is composed of 4 regions. Most people in Uganda don't really even see it that way.
If you really want to understand Uganda, you have to look at the traditional ruling map.
Although yes, the country is a unitary presidential republic, we'll talk more about this later, nonetheless, Uganda has one of the largest number of recognized constituent traditional monarchies and paramount chiefdoms in the world.
Now, it's hard to get an exact number because some of the people groups have unclear succession practices with multiple claimants to the throne. So it's like kind of in limbo.
But for the record, monarchy in Uganda goes way back, thousands of years.
It is speculated that the earliest mass dominion of rule was the Kitara Empire that existed from the early Bronze Age to about 500 AD.
It was ruled by these mysterious, how do you say it? Chiwezi kings that only have oral tradition about them passed down. Chiwezi.
Depending on how you classify or legitimize them, today there are about 30 main prominent regional kingdoms and chiefdoms.
Generally speaking though, the 5 largest ones that claim territory that makes up about half of the entire country's landmass are the Bantu-based kingdoms of Busoga, Bunyoro, Toro, Ankole, and the largest one, the Baganda, which is subsequently where Uganda got its name from.
And you are Buganda, or Buganda, right? That's the
Baganda?
word of the people. Baganda.
Baganda is the people.
You guys have all these prefixes to your words, I swear. Bantu languages, man.
Even Baganda, some people
So hard.
And from there, in the north, you find the Nilotic chiefdoms, mostly the Acholi and the Karamoja.
If we're going to be super technical though, there are actually 6 more traditional regions, including the West Nile ruled by the Sudanic chiefs, Lango, Teso, Busugu, Bukedi, and in the far south, Kigezi, making a total of 15 traditional main ruling areas.
And see, now during the British colonial times, these kingdoms and chiefdoms were actually made into functional subdivisions of Uganda prior to the 4-region system.
From you guys' understanding, what is like the role of monarchy in Uganda?
It's kind of like for show at this moment.
Yeah.
Because they have no official power. I would say it's good for the people's morale, but outside of that, and that's the part that's like heartbreaking.
There is a distinct level of influence though, right?
Yeah, I would say like if you see a prince or a king, they're treated as royalty, respected, and they hold a certain cultural value, like you said.
Right.
They're very structured too. Like they have their own parliament and everything, and they have their own like budget. And you feel that is important though to have and maintain.
Absolutely.
Very. Self-esteem of the people is very important.
But you're descended from a.
Oh man, you guys need to feel special. Yeah, my grandmother, she was actually Mutesa's older sister. Yeah, so I have like royal blood, I guess some people would say. My
Auntie Princess Buganda. Well, another thing that withstands the time in Uganda are their famous places of notable interest that you should check out if you go to Uganda. Here is one of our geography peeps to explain.
Hi everyone, my name is Rose Basemira. Uganda has so many cool places to see once you visit. Here are some of the top destinations I think you should check out. Firstly, we straddle the equator. You can see this in the town of Kayawe, just southwest of Kampala. There's even a restaurant that goes through it. We also have the amazing Kasubi tombs, which are actually a UNESCO heritage site. Bethel Church, the world's smallest church that can fit only 3 people. We have the Nero Rock paintings, the Ingongo Culture Center, Sese Islands, which have amazing beaches. We also have Jinja, which is the adrenaline capital of East Africa, yo. If you love to party, definitely try out the nightlife. Ugandans know how to party. Ugandans know how to have fun. Wee wee! Tumanyo kulio bulamu. Thank you very much, and I hope you get to enjoy Uganda if you're ever lucky enough to visit.
Thank you. Very quickly, favorite.
Listen. We didn't know Uganda had all that going on.
Uganda sound like the spot.
Okay. So a lot of you have been flooding the reaction request line, form with this video.
Cold now.
Why y'all didn't send some of those places in?
I mean, I feel like when they send a geography now video, they definitely want us to get like the whole map of what Uganda is about. You know what I'm saying? From the history to the food to everything. And then you guys start to slowly send in the real, in the gritty type of stuff.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
We need some of that to the form.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all can stop sending this one now. We did it.
We got it.
Literally over 100 requests.
Facts, for real though.
Memories and places of Uganda that you have. Go.
Woo, man.
Okay, so my favorite memory, going to people's houses at 6 p.m., which was kind of a tea time. And another thing was the mall, Garden City, which opened in the early 2000s. Also, swimming at the Sheraton in Kampala.
My older cousins, they wanted to take us somewhere. We were visiting from Kenya. So it's like, hey, my out-of-town cousins are here. I want to kind of show them around, right? We were running down this like dirt hill, right? We were in this like big crib. And then there was this 15 to 20 people sitting on like fold-out chairs, and they were watching something, and I'm like, what's going on, right? So I look and I see a sheet that's like stuck to the roof, and they got this sheet down and there's a projector playing a movie. So we're watching this, and it was like a Billy Blanks movie. Yeah, the guy from Tybo, the Tybo guy. It was a
makeshift theater.
Yeah, like a makeshift theater. Yeah, exactly.
That's legit. You just unlocked a memory. Is the
See,
theater?
That's how it goes. You remember, right?
Yep. And sometimes they would dub them in Uganda.
I think this one was dubbed too. I think this one was dubbed.
So yeah, as you can see, so many layers to Uganda. It just gets crazier and crazier the more you peel. Kingdoms, monarchies, chiefdoms. It's a lot. With that, we move on to the next segment.
So Uganda is situated in a very unique spot in the core of Africa. It may not have a coastline, but definitely has a lot of water. And not just any water, but some of the most important water in all of Africa.
First, let's jump into the motion graph and explain, shall we? First of all, Uganda is situated right in the middle of 2 fault line branches of the East African Rift System. To the west, a line runs along the border with the DRC, and the eastern fault line lies just a few hundred kilometers past their border with Kenya. These rift systems, in a sense, elevate Uganda's overall topography, meaning that even though much of their lush green central valleys are mildly hilly or flat, it still has an average elevation around 3,200 feet or 1,100 meters above sea level and slopes northward into Sudan's plains. Each of these rift systems also gives Uganda two distinct volcanic ranges on their respective sides. On the east, the range starts with Mount Elgon, shared with Kenya, going up to the northernmost tip of Uganda, and on the west, you have the small 75-mile-long, 125-kilometer-long Rwenzori Range. Although short in length, the Rwenzori Mountains are the tallest mountain range in Africa. They are also the highest non-volcanic and non-orogenic mountains, that is, a mountain range formed without being directly on the convergence of a major tectonic plate. Here you can find the tallest peak, shared with the DRC, Mount Stanley, or more specifically Margarita Peak, standing at over 5,100 meters tall, 16,000 feet. It is the third tallest peak in Africa and is high enough to support glaciers and perpetually snow-capped mountain peaks. We already mentioned the largest body of water, Lake Victoria, which is the source of the Nile, but it gets a little more complicated. See, Lake Victoria, being an elevated lake at over a mile above sea level, is drained by the Victoria Nile that empties into Lake Kyoga first, the largest inland non-shared lake of Uganda. It charges up a bit, then continues to flow and empty into Lake Albert, and then it transforms into the White Nile and then continues all the way to Egypt. And you know the rest of the story.
Also, keep in mind, don't swim anywhere you want in Lake Victoria.
No, and that's very true. And apart from the deadly hippos and the crocodiles, there is also a risk of contracting schistosomiasis.
What is that you say? Schistosomiasis is a parasitic fluke worm that burrows itself into your body and lays eggs and dies. Your body reacts to said eggs with extreme inflammation until you naturally excrete them through either stool or urine passage.
Yeah, so don't get worms.
Granted, over the years, the extreme growth in population has put a toll on the land.
But nonetheless, the land is still rich in agriculture, such as coffee and even bananas.
Speaking of coffee, I usually take an espresso break, but Noah's not here, he can't do a segment, so we'll just finish off. Who better than Ugandans to talk about Uganda?
So, Uganda has seen a pretty noticeable economic boost in the past few decades.
With an average GDP growth rate consistently hovering over the 5 to 6 percentile range, they are labeled as one of the most entrepreneurial countries, not only in Africa, but the world.
For one, yes, of course they have quite a number of mineral resources.
That's nice. So I'm guessing the population is a lot of young people.
You think?
Entrepreneurs.
Okay. Older people can be entrepreneurs late in life too.
Young people can be 30 years old too.
I know.
I don't know how y'all feel about 30-year-old people being young, but the 30s is the hot thing.
Yeah, because in the United States, they feel like 30-year-olds are old for some reason.
Yeah.
You know.
So between let's say 20 to 30 to 10-year span, I feel like the entrepreneur rate is probably higher there. Let's look at it like that.
Okay,
But we'll figure it out though. We dive deep into it with more videos and get in the comment section too. So
I like it. Y'all know we're entrepreneurs.
facts.
Successful entrepreneurs.
Just copper, cobalt, limestone, and so on.
And also in September of 2022, about 14 metric tons of gold deposits were discovered in Uganda. It's a rich land, you heard? Speaking of which, Uganda is one of the few countries in Africa that actually has their own domestic car brand, the Kira. The state-owned and operated enterprise was founded in 2014 and has since developed Africa's first hybrid, and the Kayula, the first solar electric bus.
Hydropower provides about 85% of the total electric energy capacity of a country.
Granted, due to the ever-growing population and demand for energy, load shedding or blackouts can happen sporadically, so just be mindful in case if you visit.
When load shedding would happen, there's a little device called a sigiri, which is like a mini stove made out of iron that is rolled around. We put coal into it, and it's kind of a makeshift cooker.
Memory unlocked.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Memory unlocked. I remember that.
Oh, stuff is coming out now.
Well, sometimes you need it to be dark outside to see some of those nocturnal creatures that Uganda is flourishing in. With that, it's time to bring out our Gary Hollow.
Gary Hollow here.
You remember like you walking outside late at night and then you see them eyes in the bushes?
Right.
We don't got like tigers and all that stuff, y'all, but when we see them eyes, we know what to do.
We got possums, raccoons, armadillos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even cats.
Yeah, the cats are scary
They
because
be
they
sitting
don't care.
outside.
They get on your car.
In your car through the underpart, then they scoot and sleep. Especially when it's
Oh,
cold.
under the hood.
Especially when it's cold, they like to get
in the
there.
car.
No, they do that. Yeah.
I know, but you was like in the car. I'm like, but under the hood, yeah. And in the tire.
Yep, the tire as well.
sewer rat. So to summarise, Uganda is super unique because it's basically where the savannah meets the jungle. This landscape is super rich in flora and fauna, often ranking it in the top 10 most biodiverse nations in the world. Look at all those lobelia talaki plants. Here you can find 10 national parks and 13 wildlife reserves and sanctuaries, the largest being Murchison Falls National Park. They have nearly 350 mammal species, of course, including the Big Five. However, Uganda is more widely known for being a bird haven. With over 1,000 species documented, it's estimated that about 11% of the world's birds can be found here, including the national animal which you can also find on the flag, the grey-crowned crane, or the golden crested crane. Distinguished by the stiff golden feathers atop its head that resemble a golden crown or a very spiky afro, it's majestic. This hat here is my crown.
By the way, nice new haircut, Gary. How do you feel?
I feel lighter. Not only did I get a haircut, I showered for the first time in months. Lake Bunyonyi, with its 29 islands, is known as the most popular place people go to in hopes of seeing the crane and other birds. Otherwise, Uganda is one of the only 3 nations that offer tours to see mountain gorillas. The Bwindi impenetrable forest has about half of the world's critically endangered primates, and the people wishing to see them are required to get a permit. The number of tourists...
Wait a minute. Now, I've heard of, you know, walking the lions. Is it the lions? I heard of walking.
Yeah, it was the lions. It was the lions.
Seeing elephants, but a gorilla? I've never heard of this, unless it was a zoo.
Walking with the gorillas?
Seeing them.
Seeing them? Yeah,
Seeing
yeah.
them.
And I like that they need a permit for it.
Right, I like that too.
Because it's not just open to everybody to just do it, especially knowing that they're going out, you know, with extinct and all that. But
Yeah.
I think that's good to see.
That's different, Uganda. I like that.
is tightly controlled as to avoid disturbance. You do not want to disturb a gorilla. So those are some of the top wildlife facts on Uganda. Now I'm about to tame the wildest creature on the planet, my daughter.
Gotta love that great crowned crane.
Now, another thing you can't compare it to is a luscious, hearty cuisine. They know how to handle their way around the kitchen, and that's for real.
Oh, yeah.
So let's discuss the food of Uganda.
And who better to do it than another one of you guys, the Ugandan Geography peeps. Go!
Everyone, I'm back again and I'm here to tell you about the food of Uganda. Firstly, within Uganda, each tribe is distinguished by their staple dishes. For example, the Acholi and Langi people have lots of dishes with millet and peanut butter. In the West, they use a shawe, which is like a mayonnaise-like sauce. The Wasoga people specialize in cassava, and the Bagishu people like to smoke bamboo shoots, which we locally call malewa. The Baganda specialize in Luwombo, which is like an African tamale. But one thing is for sure, we are the Matoke Republic. Why? We love cooking with matoke. We have plenty of matoke and can put in almost any dish. Boiled, fried, stewed, mashed, whatever, we can do it. On the streets, you might find a very popular snack: fried grasshoppers, fried white ants. Children do love these. And finally, you cannot end off Uganda without getting yourself a Rolex. And no, I'm not talking about the expensive watch. To us, a Rolex is a chapati with eggs and anything from veggies, minced meat, sausages rolled up together, or roll eggs, hence Rolex. You get the gist. It's a very popular street food. Everyone loves it. No one doesn't. Thank you, and I hope you get a chance to come to Uganda and enjoy our wonderful cuisine. Bye.
Thank you. Speaking of food, favorite Ugandan food, go.
We would have matoke, and then obviously we would have some greens to eat with it, right?
Ugali posho with beans is really good. Love the Rolex wraps. Those are actually really, really good.
So as you can see, the natural side of Uganda has so many layers to peel. The only thing more complex than it would be the people of Uganda. With that, let's move on to the next segment, Alright guys, very quickly, which ethnic group or tribe or people group are you from in Uganda?
Well, I am half Banyankole and half Bifumbira.
Well, it's for me, Kenya, Congo, and then in Uganda, my tribe is the Baganda people.
How would Uganda stick out from the rest of East Africa, or Africa in general?
I would say, compared to Tanzania and Kenya, we really do not speak Swahili like that. Like, we speak English and then we break it down into different tribal languages.
You know, my diverse background, I'm able to compare and contrast. In Uganda, if you say something with a different tone, you could be changing the entire meaning of your sentence or your entire meaning of the word. The one thing that unites all these languages is the cadence. That's
like the intonation, the tone.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm so scared of some of the words I'm pronouncing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right. My mom would kill me. She'd be like, no, that's not how you say it.
You're doing great.
You say it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, cool. And with that, let's just break it down statistic-wise in the motion graphic. Here we go. So population-wise, Uganda is made up of about 47 million people and is one of the fastest growing countries on Earth. They added 13 million to their population in only 10 years. Also, keep in mind about 1.5 million of these people are refugees from neighboring countries, about 85% from the DRC and South Sudan. The country is made up of about 56 tribes and ethnic groups. However, Bantu groups make up the largest demographic. In fact, the 4 largest tribes are Bantu and make up almost half of the entire population. They are the Baganda at about 17%, the Banyankole at about 10%, the Basoga at about 9%, and the Bakifa at about 7%. From there, the 5th largest group, the Iteso, are a Nilotic group and make up about 7%. From there, the remainder of the country is made up of other various Bantu, Nilotic, Hamitic, and Sudanic groups. Some are multi-ethnic Ugandans, and a small community of Asians, mostly Indo-Ugandans, that are mostly descended from Gujarati Indians from India.
So we use the Ugandan shilling as our currency. However, keep in mind, we also do not mind using euros or dollars as well.
Uganda uses the type G plug outlet and they drive on the left side of the road, you know, former British colony, so left side.
Now, language-wise, English and as of 2022, Kiswahili are the official languages.
How do you guys feel about that?
I think it's very, very important, and I think it's a beautiful thing that they have done that, because that's going to be one of the vehicles that the African people use. We have our diversified languages, and I think that's beautiful. But in addition to that, to make our connection a lot stronger, we need to have one unifying language.
Even though not all the regions are natively Kiswahili, it's still kind of a unifying thing that brings them together, and you support the Kiswahili movement.
I mean, that's how.
However, keep in mind there are about 70 other languages spoken throughout Uganda. 41 are indigenous, and they are divided into 4 main groups.
Keep in mind, though, that the Luganda language of the Baganda people is the most widely spoken language in the country.
Religion. Today, about 85% of the country adheres to some form of Christianity, a split between Catholics and Anglicans. I was actually Anglican growing up. Whereas the largest minority religion, being Islam, is somewhere around 14%.
All right, now let's bring up the topic of other groups. For one, Uganda is usually ranked in the top 5 refugee hosting countries on Earth and is the largest refugee host in Africa.
Another community that has been notable in Uganda are the Indo-Ugandans, or Ugandans of Indian descent, mostly the Gujaratis of West India. In colonial times of the 19th and early 20th centuries, about 32,000 Indian laborers were brought in by the British to work on the Ugandan railway, and when it was completed, most went back to India, but about 7,000 decided to stay.
The Indian community was kind of like the buffer between the British and the native Ugandan population. And they usually had it better in terms of education and positions of employment and management.
Now, after independence, there was a great period when President Idi Amin decided to expel most of the foreigners, primarily Indians, from Uganda.
Without going too far into it, it basically kind of went like this.
These Indo-Ugandans only make up about 1% of the population, yet they earn about 1/5 of the national income.
So, what's the plan?
I'm going to expel as many of them as I can, confiscate about 6,000 of their homes, businesses, firms, architectural estates, and so forth, as a way to give back the economy of Uganda to Ugandans. I mean, sounds good, right? How can Ugandans be against reclaiming their own country?
Yeah, I have a feeling this is probably going to end up pretty differently than the way you envision it will.
And it did. I know this is kind of a heavy topic, but what do you guys think in regards to the whole complicated social dynamics between Indians and Africans and this whole thing that happened with Idi Amin?
Oh man, I got a lot to say. You can go first.
I will start with kind of a personal anecdote. There is a bishop of my grandparents, Festo Kivengere. He wrote a book, I Love Idi Amin, which is actually a book about forgiveness. He was one of the religious clergy that were persecuted under Amin rule. A lot of the people were unfortunately executed in stadiums in our village, in Kabale. But prior to him going off track, there are some things that sort of set the tone for his coming into power.
So with me, it's a little bit different. You know, with me personally, I know with the Baganda people, Tessa was exiled. So he was actually in England and then he had died overseas. And Obote at the time was like, no, I'm not bringing his body back. Once once he lost power and Idi Amin gained his power, one of the first things he did for the Baganda people was actually bring back Mutesa's body. And so when I think of Idi Amin, I don't really see necessarily the wartime, where I'm not disputing how somebody could see that. I'm looking at it a little bit more layered. He didn't want anybody in Uganda that wasn't Ugandan. He's been like a vanguard, right, on trying to direct or push Uganda forward in a certain direction.
I have a completely different view.
I know you do. I know.
He's like Hitler. It's very hard for me.
I know. That's why this is so crazy.
Support probably obviously came from the Baganda people.
Yes.
Maybe the other groups were not so down for it.
Exactly.
Is that kind of how it kind of unfolded a little bit?
That's how I'm looking at it.
Well, yeah, when it comes to Ugandan politics, it's very complicated. I mean, like, one guy lasted 10 days. It was like, yeah, we're not going to open up the box of worms right now. Have fun in the comments.
Switching it up a bit, and speaking of fun, one thing Ugandans like to do is play sports. And with that, here's Art for the sports part.
Technology has come a far way. The thing is about this technology
You're
is
not
that
Steve Jobs, Art.
a man can try, okay? So, like usual, let's start with the traditional stuff. Uganda has quite a few customary games and sports that have been practiced for centuries during the Buganda Kingdom time. The most notable sports probably being Ekigo Ekiganda, or traditional Ugandan wrestling, Kwapena, which is like a double-sided dodgeball game, and Dulu, or Ugandan-style finger pull. Otherwise, in a more organized federation sense, Uganda has participated in every Summer Olympics since 1956, except the 1976 Montreal Olympics, where they were protesting. Not going to get into that. Anyway, since then they've racked up 11 medals, including 4 golds, all in running events. John Akibua won the first gold in 1972 Munich Olympics, and this lady, Peruth Shamutai, won the first gold in women's event. Apart from that, all the other medals are in boxing. Yes, Uganda is kind of a boxing enthusiast country. One Ugandan uppercut, and you're Uganda. Otherwise, of course, many Ugandans will claim that soccer or football is their favorite sport. We say that in every episode, right? That's soccer, right?
Why would they call that?
Everybody,
You're
right?
kicking with your foot into a net.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
The rest of the world
that's
is wrong.
definitely soccer.
Yeah, because you sock the ball.
You sock it. You sock it with your foot because you're wearing a sock. Okay, high five.
Yeah.
You figured it out. American logic, buddy. Unfortunately, they have never qualified for the World Cup. However, they did finish second in the Africa Cup of Nations in 1978. All right, so that's about it for the sports part. I'm out of here. And remember, guys, when in doubt, flex it out. Unless you're weak and useless. Okay, see ya.
Thank you, Art.
My grandmother was actually one of the first women to play football.
Really?
In Uganda.
So you come from Baganda royalty and you come from athletic royalty. Damn.
Let's get it, man.
What is this guy I brought on the show,
Let's get it, man. Let's get it.
Well, speaking of heritage, let's bring it over to Hannah to cover some interesting facts in the culture segment, shall we?
Go, Hannah, go.
Geographies, what's up? I'm back. And remember to get a random Hannah shirt at geographynow.com. And speaking of clothing articles, Uganda has a myriad of traditional costumes, both used at events and sometimes even worn daily on the streets. The most common one you will find on women will probably be the gomesi dress, characterized by its high square shoulder pads, long hem, and kitambala sash tied around the waist. The most common men's attire at social events is usually the kanzu, a long white tunic similar to the Arab thobe, usually accompanied by a dress jacket. British actor of Ugandan descent Daniel Kaluuya even wore one to the premiere of Black Panther, and Ugandans loved it. Guess what? Uganda also has the bride price tradition. Depending on what region and tribe you are part of when getting married, the groom and his family usually have to pay a large fee to the bride's family for sending her off. In the cities, this is usually gifts or money. In the rural areas, it's usually livestock. In 2015, Uganda's Supreme Court actually made it illegal for a husband to demand a bride price refund in the case of a divorce.
Ew.
Can't get your money
You
back.
gotta think about it, because I remember like when we started first watching the marriages and the weddings and stuff, they would do all the money and stuff, but they'll have their conversations at the very beginning with the family meet the family about the pricing. I never thought about them asking for a refund.
Right.
That's crazy.
Like if the marriage don't work, or if they call the engagement off.
Or just when in doubt, period. Like, I'm not going to go through with it. We're just going to cancel everything.
Give my money back.
Wow, okay.
All arts and media. Woo! Believe it or not, Uganda has a fast-growing cinematic industry, and many people attribute it to Hollywood films. Many documentaries have been made on this topic, and in 2005, Isaac Godfrey Jeffrey Nambwana, aka the Quentin Tarantino of Uganda, started his own low-budget action movies filmed around the Wakaliga slum of Kampala. He did all the directing and editing himself. Clips of his movies went viral online, and suddenly the whole world fell in love with features like Who Killed Captain Alex and Bad Black. They were even featured in the Seattle International Film Festival and earned an encore presentation. One guy just wanted to have fun, and suddenly it became an industry. Well, another industry in Uganda would be the music industry, and normally I'm really bummed about this segment, but right now I'm so pumped because Keith's not here, so I brought my other half to do the segment.
That puts me in an awkward position. But the music in Uganda has an interesting backstory. Every tribe and ethnic group has their own distinct style of vocals, dances, and instruments. But the most popular traditional style would probably be the fast-paced baksimba, which uses fast percussion made up of gourd rattles, cow horn trumpets, and various stretched animal skin drums. This is usually accompanied by the muwagola dance, performed by women, which feature feathered belts tied around the waist to accentuate the rapid hip shaking. Bakasimba has made its way into modernity and has been incorporated in contemporary Ugandan music, the most well-known genre probably being the Kadongo Kamu, created by the Baganda people in the 1960s. Some say Fred Masagasi being the father of that genre. The guitar was used as sort of a substitution to imitate the bass drum used in Bakasimba, and the rest is history. In fact, there's a word in the Lugandan language, nyege nyege, which means an irresistible urge to dance. And so, Uganda made the Nyege Nyege International Music Festival. The events include performances mostly focusing on Eastern African artists, but also include some from outside Africa. Otherwise, contemporary Ugandan artists today have worked their way up into the mainstream African music scene. Kimmy has an interesting story on how she got a #1 hit in Uganda, so I'm out. Back to Kimmy. She's awesome. See ya later.
Thank you. By the way, you guys are both musicians.
Yes.
So, fun fact, I actually had a radio #1 hit in Uganda in 2012, inspired by Navio, who was a huge Ugandan artist. One of the people who put me on was Lillian of the very big pop group Blue 3, and Pion's also an artist as well.
Yeah. So that's actually how we met. So you can go to PS Rebels Everything. You could check out our music.
You and your brother, right?
Yeah, me and my brother. We're working on new videos now, and I'm always open to like collaborating.
Support the artists.
So collaborating with new artists, man.
Gotta plug the guest host, man, as much as possible. Plug.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Well, we've covered so much. The only thing left to talk about are the friends of Uganda. This is gonna be an interesting one. Let's jump into it.
Okay, babe, who you thinking?
Being that they landlocked everybody.
Everybody.
I mean, they
had some disputes.
They had, but I feel like they're real close to none when it comes to that.
Okay, I'm gonna say Kenya, and for some reason South Africa. Kenya and South Africa.
Okay.
You ain't got no.
I like it. They all well for me. It all fits well.
All right, so Uganda knows how to interact with their friends and neighbors.
Why don't we go a little bit more into depth about it on the next motion graphic coming up?
Let's do that. First of all, outside of Africa, Uganda has had ties to the UK after independence, and many of the Indo-Ugandans were granted permission to move to the UK during the expulsion years under Idi Amin. Today, they have had multiple aid projects and high-level diplomatic visits that have taken place between the two countries. During Idi Amin's rule, Libya actually became a close friend, and Gaddafi invested a lot in the country and supported them in liberation wars. They even built a mosque named after Gaddafi. Today, though, less attention has been focused on between the two since Libya has had to deal with more of their own internal affairs due to current events. If we're going to talk about their best friends, however, we have to bring it back to East Africa. For one, South Sudan and the DRC are, as mentioned in the episode, the largest refugee nations that arrived to Uganda. The three countries have had lots of interaction between them and their ethnic groups, dating back centuries even before current borders were established. Rwanda is kind of seen as like the stable, strict, clean, organized neighbor friend that acts nice to them, but is kind of low-key competing with them in almost every field. Both of them kind of secretly want to see who can out-economic growth spurt the other, but they still love each other and get along well. It's like the best competing friendship in East Africa. Meanwhile, Burundi is watching in the corner, taking notes, hoping they can do the same eventually. When it comes to their closest friends, however, more or less, most Ugandans that I talk to have said that it's either Tanzania or Kenya or both. Generally speaking, these three countries are the trifecta powerhouses that keep East Africa afloat. Nearly everything trade-wise, finance-wise, education-wise, and even culture-wise goes through these three countries when it comes to East African affairs. They all pretty much started the whole Kiswahili revolution that initiated the first indigenous lingua franca to be used on the African continent, and being an official language of the AU. They share the same history of being former British colonies, and hence they also speak English. They also share the same foods, the same dance moves. They often intermarry and have families, and overall, these three get each other the best out of all other countries.
In conclusion, you two are the Ugandans. I gotta give this to you. I'm out.
Uganda, you are awesome. Entrepreneurial, as we've learned, a drive to keep pushing despite the limits that have been placed on us.
You know, Uganda just continue having this spirit and protecting the essence of what it means to be a Ugandan. So that's why I think it's very, very important for Ugandans to continue controlling our direction and controlling what we want to do. And as you see, y'all have just rocked with us this whole time. We just barely touched the surface, but it's a very rich and diverse history, and let's keep it that way. One love. Cool. This was cool. We held it down.
Yeah, you guys held it down. That was really great. All right, guys. So stay tuned. Ukraine is coming up next.
Oh man, hey, you know what's so funny about this video? As long as it was, I still feel like it wasn't long enough.
Right, like there was so much. There's so much more. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, basically, that's what I was gonna say. That's so much more that I feel like we could have dove into. I mean, it's so much interesting facts about it.
Yeah. I was all ears, soaking up all the knowledge about Uganda. Uganda or Uganda?
I'm sticking with Uganda.
Uganda. Okay. If we're saying it wrong, correct us.
Yeah.
All right. We mean it with love.
Facts.
All right. So this was super cool, super informative. We learned a lot. We hope you guys learned a lot. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks. If you like to support the channel that way, as well as our reaction request form, is in our description box below. We'll see you soon.
Peace.